Hey guys, Necroxis here, and today we're going to take a look at my personal favorite character from the Mists of Pandaria expansion thus far, the Black Prince, Wrathion. I'm going to largely examine Wrathion's history, as well as offer a theory I had regarding Wrathion's repeated insistence about the Burning Legion's return, and the potential of Wrathion's actions regarding the Legion's return not necessarily being in our own best interest as mortals on Azeroth. So, let's get into the history, shall we? Before we actually begin with Wrathion, though, it should be noted that all black dragons on Azeroth seem to have a unique, unfortunate trait of being much more easily susceptible to the corruption of the old gods. While never definitely defined, it can be easily assumed that this is because the original charge of the Black Dragon Flight was to guard the deep places of Azeroth. Now this ultimately means the flight largely spent its time either directly underground or dealing with issues that affected the very earth and the core of the planet. And unfortunately, when the Titans initially defeated the old gods and their forces, they chained them all, slumbering or disabled their forms when they beat them, beneath the lands of Azeroth, right where the Black Dragon Flight's domain was. And as revealed during a very important quest chain in Cataclysm in the Badlands, pretty much all of the Black Dragonflight is corrupted with the old god's influence, even those that have not yet hatched from their eggs. Now famously, the Black Dragon aspect Neltharion, now known as Deathwing, became the old god's ultimate tool of destruction, resulting in him literally breaking the world in Cataclysm on their behalf. And as such, his dragonflight joined up with Twilight's hammer, aiming to bring about the old god's vision of a completely destroyed Azeroth, although they are seemingly ignorant of the fact that if they did this, they would ultimately have to die as well. Now, as the Horde Alliance and Earthen Ring tried to deal with a world in crisis, in the Badlands another type of work was being done, much more important work, if you ask me, work that attempted to cure the Black Dragonflight of their old god corruption. Because even though the entirety of the flight sided with Twilight's Hammer's masters, the old gods, the Red Dragons realized they still would ultimately need a group to uphold the charge that the original Black Dragonflight had. Thus, in the Badlands, the Red Dragon Ristraza worked to find a cure to that old god corruption with the aid of a gnomish doctor. She captured the Black Dragon Nyxandra and forced her to lay eggs, which they then experimented on. After several failed attempts at curing the corruption of the old gods, with the help of Azeroth heroes, of course, the three managed to finally purify one of Nyxandra's eggs, primarily because of a Titan artifact called the Eye of the Watchers. Now, obviously, a black dragon that wasn't infected with the corruption of the old gods presents a very clear danger to Deathwing and his masters, so Ristraza moved constantly around with the egg, trying to avoid the Black Dragonflight. However, in the end, Deathwing ultimately cornered her in a cave and destroyed her and the egg that she had on hand. After Ristraza's death, however, the hero is contacted by her gnomish doctor friend that aided her and informs the hero that she had switched the Black Dragon purified egg with one of her own at the last minute, and that the purified Black Dragon egg had survived and was sent to the Red Dragonflight in the Twilight Highlands. However, shortly later, we are told that the egg is stolen away by some unknown force, and we don't hear about it for a time after that. When the hour of twilight draws dangerously close, the Alliance and the Horde join the Dragon aspects in defending Deathwing's assault on Wyrmrest Temple. As the battle begins, the Red Dragon leader of Wyrmrest Temple's defense contacts a particularly crafty, unnamed rogue to obtain a certain ring from a Twilight Hammer operative named Hagara the Stormbinder, who took up residence in the Eye of Eternity. Obtaining the ring and charging it with power with help of an ethereal, it is revealed that the Black Dragon purified egg was stolen by the Ravenholt rogues of Hillsbrad Foothills. After traveling to several other Red Dragonflight agents, the unnamed rogue is sent to steal the egg back from Ravenholt after the Red Dragonflight believes that an all-out assault on the manor would be too risky. Infiltrating the grounds of Ravenholt Manor, the rogue enters the manor from the roof, and after making his way to the basement, is met face to face with the Black Dragon, now hatched from its egg and taking the form of a dark-skinned human male. Taking the name Wrathion, the black dragon admits that while he grew up in his egg, he was sentient, and he could hear the red dragons plotting to use him as a puppet, leading a group of cleansed black dragons. At least, this is what Wrathion believes. During this moment, Wrathion's bodyguard, a man named Farad, enters the room and tells the two of them that his guards have captured the red dragon that accompanied the rogue to Ravenholt. Telling Farad not to execute the red dragon, Wrathion tells him to make sure the red dragon returns to his flight, and tells them that he is indeed free of the corruption and madness that the rest of the black dragon flight has, but he will not be part in their scheme, and he will only give them one warning to leave him alone. After Farad leaves, Wrathion tells the rogue that Deathwing's push against Wyrmrest Temple is also a last attempt at causing the Hour of Twilight, and that the black dragon flight has been pushed to the brink of extinction. And as Deathwing personally enters the battle, the few black dragons that remain alive have fled into hiding. The rogue agrees to help Wrathion hunt down his remaining brothers and sisters, so that they cannot cause any more harm to Azeroth. During the course of Deathwing's final stand, Wrathion and the rogue hunt down and kill several prominent surviving black dragons. These dragons included one who was forming a cult in Gilneas, and Nalus, the former black dragon representative to the Wyrmrest Accord, who was performing arcane experiments beneath Karazhan. During this time, Wrathion rewards the rogue with several increasingly powerful weapons for aiding him. Eventually, Wrathion sends the rogue and their allies to take down his father himself, after Wrathion realizes Deathwing's actions will most likely cause the Hour of Twilight if he is left alive any longer. In the end, the rogue and its allies succeed, and the rogue brings back a piece of Deathwing's adamantium jaw at Wrathion's behest. Entering Ravenholt Manor with the jaw fragment, a dead red dragon can be seen lying on the floor, with Wrathion telling the rogue that the red dragon flight sent an assassin to kill him, because he refused to be their puppet. Using the jaw fragment, Wrathion creates an immensely powerful pair of daggers for the rogue. However, he tells them that there is still one black dragon left for them to deal with, and reveals that Farad himself is a disguised black dragon, and was the one who stole Wrathion's egg from the red dragonflight. Eventually, Wrathion forces the corruption of Farad to manifest, and he and the rogue kill him. With his death, Wrathion tells the rogue he believes he is now the last surviving black dragon alive, and transforms into his whelpling form and flies away. He tells the rogue as he flies away that he hopes to meet them again, and expresses interest in some island shrouded in mists beyond the sea. Wrathion is again encountered on Pandaria, residing in the Veiled Stair at the Tavern in the Mists, having now recruited various races to serve his own personal bodyguard and force. He contacts the heroes of Azeroth that have traveled to Pandaria at the behest of their own faction in order to warn them. Meeting up with Wrathion, he tells the hero that he is not a supporter of his father Deathwing's philosophy, nor that of the Red Dragonflight, and he is simply looking out for the safety of Azeroth as a whole. He initially tells the hero that he fears the Burning Legion's return, something he believes is coming soon. He tells the hero that Garrosh's destruction of Theramore is nothing compared to what will happen to Azeroth if the Legion returns, and that while the Horde and Alliance war rages, there cannot be a united force to stand against it when it does return. Thus, he encourages the hero to end the war quickly before it consumes enough of Azeroth's strength, and pledges his help to the faction of whichever hero the player is on. He tells the hero that he will help equip them to become powerful enough to be able to end the war themselves, and sends them on several tasks. The first is to obtain several sigils from hidden places on Pandaria, specifically the Mogushan Vaults, the Heart of Fear, and Terrace of the Endless Spring, in addition to proving their worth to Wrathion by killing several of the races that are threatening Pandaria, like the Mogu and the Mantid. Following this, Wrathion sends the hero to destroy the Shah of Fear in the Terrace of the Endless Spring and obtain the crystallized essence of the Shah. Bringing Wrathion this essence, he creates a powerful gem from its energies and gives it to the hero, and tells him he must prepare for the clash of the Horde and Alliance forces that are arriving in the Krasserang Wilds soon. When the landfall invasion happens, Wrathion tests the hero's commitment to their faction, as well as seeks to learn about the leader of said faction. He uses his blood to see through the hero's eyes, and asks them to kill opposing forces in the Krasarang wilds, to bring about a quicker end to the war. After proving their worth to Wrathion once again, he will speak about Varian Rin or Garrosh Hellscream, and then arm the hero with the ability to add gem sockets to their shot-touched weapons. He then mentions the upcoming threat of the Thunder King, and tells the hero to prepare for Lei Shen's resurgence. Following the conclusion of the Landfall story, with Anduin being crushed to near death by the remains of the Divine Bell, the Prophet Velen heals the Prince of Stormwind, and he takes up residence in a tavern with Wrathion, several Stormwind Royal Guards, and Sunwalker Dezko. As the hero enters the taverns again, Wrathion and Anduin are seen playing a Pandaren board game and discussing current events. Both express different opinions about Lei Shen's leadership style, with Wrathion admitting that Thunder King's brutality has its benefits, and Anduin saying that no empire has ever survived by simply crushing its citizens, citing the Pandaren overthrowing the very Mogu that Wrathion was praising. Wrathion sends the hero to the Isle of the Thunder King to stop Lei Shen from destroying the rest of Pandaria, as well as learning the origins and the source of the Mogu's power. Wrathion once again asks the hero to prove their worth by killing the Mogu, Zandalari, and Sarok on the island while obtaining many stone tablets from the Throne of Thunder documenting Titan power. He then accompanies the hero to the Thunder Forges, where the two of them successfully reactivate it and create a lance, with Wrathion then sends the hero to enchant with lightning by piercing it through the newly reborn serpent, Storm Lord Nalik. Finishing this task, Wrathion rewards the hero with another trinket, a metagem, which also serves as a mechanism through which Wrathion will observe the hero's actions and what is occurring between the Alliance and the Horde firsthand. Still, even after receiving this, Wrathion tells the hero to enter the Throne of Thunder again to destroy whatever Lei Shen had gathered and to steal all Titan artifact and knowledge for him. After bringing him some Titan stone tablets, Wrathion then demands the hero kill the Thunder King himself and bring him his heart, so that Lei Shen can never be resurrected again. After accomplishing this, Wrathion tells the hero that the Pandarian campaign is over, and that war is reaching a tipping point. He says that something is about to give, and that he needs time to prepare for when the Rebellion and the Alliance make their moves. After Vol'jin returns to Sen'jin village from Pandaria and begins putting his rebellion into action, Wrathion calls the hero back to him again in order to seek the blessing and power of the August Celestials of Pandaria. Depending on what spec the hero is when you play, you travel to a specific Celestial and accomplish a challenge for them. Upon completion, the blessing is granted to the hero, and Wrathion acquires the power of the Celestials. As a reward, he gives the hero a cloak made from the energies of a specific Celestial of whose task they completed. And finally, Wrathion tells the hero that there is one last task for him to complete before he moves on to his final act of his plan, although he does not tell the hero what his plan actually is. He sends the hero away and begins preparing for the siege of Orgrimmar to begin. His final words to the hero are that the two of them will bring the war to a, quote, glorious conclusion. Now, before we move into the opinion and theory crafting part of this video, I'm going to address some characteristics of Wrathion that might have been missed in the history. Wrathion's complete heritage is actually unknown. We know that his mother is the black dragon Nyxandra, but the identity of his father has not been revealed. Sinestra is the only known mate of Deathwing who ever survived his mating attempts, and as such, it is highly unlikely that Wrathion is truly Deathwing's heir. More likely is that Wrathion considers Deathwing his father because Deathwing is the leader of the entire Dragonflight, in the same vein that the other Dragonflights do to their leader. It should be noted, however, that Dave Kosak has said that Wrathion is Deathwing's true heir, although the contradiction about Sinestra being confirmed as the only female black dragon to survive mating attempts, and the fact that we know the black dragon Nyxandra is Wrathion's mother, still hasn't been explained. Wrathion also seems incredibly intelligent, despite the fact that he literally is only 2 years old. He hatched his entire plan to free himself from the Red Dragonflight before he was, well, actually hatched. and he seems apparently to have some grand master plan to deal with the Burning Legion, who apparently is also coming to Azeroth soon. In a similar vein, Wrathion also appears to be quite powerful for being just a dragon whelpling. He outright paralyzes a fully grown dragon quite easily, and is able to command enough power or respect to essentially control his own personal militia, called the Black Talon Bodyguards. He also frequently comments on his wish to give the hero some of his power, but his power is so great that it would rip the hero's body to pieces. While some of this is surely bluster, Wrathion's power seemingly cannot be really denied at this point. Wrathion is also very charismatic and convincing. Truly, his dialogue is really expertly written to almost convince you before he even finishes completing his thought that you're going to help him. And, interestingly enough, in the same vein, he also comes across as smarmy and a bit pretentious at times, as if the explanation of his actions isn't actually necessary. Wrathion is also, very understandably, very indignant about those who try to control him to support their own agenda that he doesn't agree with. Dave Kosak also really summed up Wrathion's character well during a 2012 interview before Mists of Pandaria was released. He said, quote, "His value to the franchise is he really can kind of stand above the Alliance and the Horde, and really try and be a good guy, but without all of the moral reservations that most of the good guys have. He really does have the best interests of Azeroth in mind, but his interests may not necessarily line up with our interests. His plan may not be the way that we would think of planning it. That kind of gray area between hero and villain is so cool for us, very cool to explore. And you're never sure whether you should trust him or not. It helps that we have a wonderful voice actor who really gets that across. He gets that kind of air of arrogance and also a bit of smarminess. You know, like you like him, but you don't trust him at the same time." End quote. Now, moving on to the opinion section, I wanted to give a few personal thoughts about why I love Wrathion as a character before I actually talk about my own theory. Once again, this section and the theory afterwards are solely my own opinion, and those of you who disagree with me are more than welcome to. If you think I haven't been fair or my premise is wrong in some regard, please let me know in the comments. As I said in my garage video, I love reading other people's theory crafting and opinion on the characters. I suppose the reason why I love Wrathion so much as a character is because it seems like Wrathion is actually the first successful character who is truly neutral from a morality and ethical standpoint. Basing off the Dungeons & Dragons version of alignment, I would say that Wrathion represents either true neutral or chaotic neutral in his character. And he is, in my opinion, the only Warcraft character in the lore that is successfully written to fill this very specific alignment. Now, Blizzard loves their good versus evil storylines. Hell, that's what all of Warcraft 1 and 2 were about. The Horde was evil and the Alliance was good. Hell, and even in Warcraft 3 you had the humans, orcs, and the Night Elves. They were good. And the Scourge and the Burning Legion were evil. And there's nothing inherently wrong with good versus evil storylines. But personally I, and I'm sure many others, prefer the gray situations and stories, as they tend to be far more interesting. This isn't to say that Blizzard hasn't tried with the morally gray characters in the past. Illidan is certainly a character who existed for large stretches of time as a morally neutral character. But ultimately, his characterization in Burning Crusade swung too far in one direction, and he ultimately ended up in the evil category. Much to the chagrin of a lot of his fans too, mind you, including myself. This is why I think Wrathion is so successful as a character. As Dave Kosak said, Wrathion is looking out for the well-being of Azeroth, but isn't necessarily doing it in a way that we would automatically agree with. Just look at Anduin's reactions to what Wrathion is doing in 5.2 as a perfect example. Wrathion is totally willing to use whatever tools and powers he has to achieve his goal, regardless of the morality of the situation. There are even a few instances where you can argue that Wrathion is simply lying to us as the players to get our cooperation, such as when he says he'll support whatever faction you're currently playing in regards to the Horde or Alliance war, without actually expressing support to either faction. He basically tells us what we want to hear so that we'll help out his own agenda. He is truly neither a villain nor a hero. He simply exists in this world, and he doesn't want to see this world destroyed. Sometimes he does things to our benefit, and I am convinced that he will be doing things to our detriment, possibly very soon, that I'll get on a little bit later. But ultimately, what he is doing, he's doing to his own benefit in the end. Oh, and I also really love his voice actor. I don't think he's voiced as well as Lorewalker Cho, but that isn't a negative for Wrathion's voice actor. It's a compliment for Lorewalker Cho's. Wrathion's voice actor has very successfully created a character that I don't think we ever truly understand his motivations for his intentions, and I absolutely love that, especially in World of Warcraft. Alrighty, now it's time to begin trying to explain my theory about Wrathion and his intentions. And, in full disclosure, I developed this theory alongside my fellow co-host for But Wait There's Lore, Howitzer, one day when we were talking on Skype about the lore. I actually did explain this theory on the latest episode of But Wait There's Lore, so if this explanation comes out a bit less elegantly than I intend, you can also go hear it on there. Essentially, the core of the theory comes down to the fact that Wrathion seemingly will do whatever it takes to stop the Legion. Combine this with his grey morality and his fascination with the Titans, and my theory basically comes down to this. Basically, once we finish the Siege of Orgrimmar, Wrathion's going to reveal that his ultimate plan, which he keeps hinting at but never tells us, is to bring the Burning Legion to Azeroth purposefully of his own volition. He's going to open up portals to the Twisting Nether and start the invasion on his own. Now, he doesn't do this because he's evil or because he really wants to see Azeroth destroyed. Actually, far from it. He's doing this because there isn't really a better way to force the Titans back to Azeroth than have the Legion invading Azeroth in full force. This would also give a chance for the old gods to surge back up, compiling more into the Titans' interest in returning. This theory stems from a couple examples in the game. The first is that we as the players have basically been powering Wrathion up with different power sources from all of the expansion. We're bringing him Titan artifacts, we're bringing him Titan knowledge, and we even bring him the power of Lei Shen, who he stole from a Titan Watcher named Wrathion. And as 5.2 goes on, Wrathion even becomes a bit indignant in his want to obtain more Titan technology. He almost begins to feel like if it's his right to take it. We as the players have always assumed that Wrathion's altruistic, but we're never really reassured of this by Wrathion himself, except in a way that he makes it seem like it's really obvious he's just telling us what we want to hear. Like I said earlier, when he pledges support to one faction or another, we're helping him accomplish his goal, but he really doesn't give us anything in return. He tells us that we need to end the war quickly, and that he has his grand plan, but if you think about it, Wrathion really hasn't done anything to end the war between the Alliance and the Horde more quickly. Second, perhaps Wrathion actually brings the Legion to Azeroth with the mindset that he has sufficiently prepared us as a heroes to survive against them long enough for the Titans to come back before everything is destroyed. As I mentioned earlier, we are powering up Wrathion with various Titan artifacts and technology, but in return, he is also giving us very powerful artifacts and powers. In 5.3, Wrathion essentially comes out and says he's powering up a champion to represent him. What if he's doing this so we can hold our own against the Legion long enough for the Titans to come back, and there's something to come back to? Third, we've already seen that Wrathion admires things that we might perceive as evil. He expresses interest and even envy in the empire that Lei Shen built. It's clear that morality is irrelevant to Wrathion, as I've already explained many times. He's acting out of his own personal interest, and it is a person whose interest primarily includes the Titans. I think you can now see where I'm connecting the dots here at this point. At least I hope. Because ultimately, what would be faster to bring the Titans to Azeroth than some old gods and their own fallen champion to return? That's my theory about Wrathion. What do you guys think? You think it's possible? Or am I completely crazy? Truth be told, with the quality and level of expertise Blizzard uses in writing the Warcraft story, my theory might be a bit too complicated for them to successfully pull off in an MMO. But I would still like to see Wrathion do something morally questionable if he believes it is ultimately to Azeroth's best interest. We've been building to this opinion of him for quite a long time now, and I finally want to see him actually do something that will question our alliance with him. And so, with that, that's it. That's my video about Wrathion. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions, comments, or theories of your own, you can always leave them in the comments below, or if you want to challenge something I said, feel free to do that as well. If you like this video and you want to support me, probably the best way you could do that would be to like, favorite, and subscribe to this video. But most importantly, if you know somebody who is a fan of the lore and they haven't seen my channel, send them my way, and share this on all the appropriate media sites for those of you who think might know people who will find this interesting. That is probably the best way you could help me out in expanding my channel. If you guys have any other suggestions for a character you'd like to see me take a look at, leave those in the bottom comments below too. My first episode was Garrosh, this one's Wrathion. I really have no plan in my head who I want to do next, so it's up to suggestion. If I like your idea, I'm going to use it. Thanks guys, my name is Necroxis, and I will see you for the next piece of Warcraft lore. There's always more to explore. Farewell.